Welcome, my friends, to the showdown between the Lizardmen, who shall be led by the Banana Slan, which is actually a life Slan. It's no longer the light Slan. And today, guys, we're going to be facing off against the Beastmen, who shall be led by old Kazrak One Eye. Certainly a rare sighting, and I believe he's going to be on the chariot, which should be interesting. Now, as far as the build goes, in the front line, it's going to be a couple Saurs. And the main idea is basically the Saurs, who are pretty durable. You know, they're just a well-rounded, powerful infantry choice, 35 melee defense, decent armor at 60, they're shielded, they have great leadership. These bad boys usually hold on pretty long. Even when they rampage, basically I just need troops to hold the front line against the Beastmen while the Dread Saurian just goes balls deep. So it's going to be three of those guys in the front line with the Dread Saurian. So we're not going for the ROR, the Shredder of Lustria, nor are we going for the Feral one. I'm going for kind of the mid-tier Shredder, or the mid-tier Dread Saurian here. And yeah, they did get some changes relatively recently. I think they had some mass increases and they're a little bit more efficient at getting to the targets they need to get to. So I think there are a couple matchups in which the Dread Saurian can be okay now. Before it was just pretty terrible because of its issues with getting on the attacking targets. It would get stuck on like infantry, and even still you can see it kind of getting a little bit mucked up here, but I'm not really like trying to path it through right now. It's just kind of auto moving with my formation, but it is much better at getting on those targets, and that's really its strength, right? It has 750 weapon strength. If it gets onto those targets and it can actually attack them, it can do a ton of damage. So we're going to be trying to see how this bad boy does. Plus, they also got, I think, a 600 HP buff. They used to have like 10,500, so that's kind of cool. In the back, we have a couple skink cohorts just for backline protection. So when they're coming in with Centaurs or any other troops, or if they have Centaurs with throwing axes, for example, trying to get around the back, pick off the Dread Saurian, things like that, you can use the skink cohorts with javelins to screen those guys out. Now, up in the sky, I have a couple Pterodon Riders as well. And I actually like these guys quite a bit in this matchup. So firstly, these bad boys have 90 range. And if you look at one of the more common counters against big dinos for the Beastmen, which is Centaurs with throwing axes, those guys have 70 range. So you outrange them, you poke, you harass, and eventually, if they do kind of come in for a very aggressive charge, you can countercharge them with the Pterodon Riders and usually do okay for yourself. And last but not least, we do also have some Ripperdactyls. So I figured we need some more, killing power here. Something to really just mow down hordes of infantry and gore herds and things like that. And Ripperdactyls certainly hit very hard. 52 melee attack. So even against big targets, they can still make good contact with that kind of melee attack. Plus the bonus for his infantry is quite good. And Ripperdactyls can be okay for sure. They're very glass cannon, but if you can micro them effectively, they can do okay. So of course we do have a Scar Veteran. And since we're going with the Dread Saurian plus a Carnosaur, or Scar Veteran Carnosaur over here, having Lore of Life I think was super crucial here. So that's going to be our formation. For my opponents though, he does have a whole front line of Goreherds with shields, Blackhorns, Ravagers. Should put up a good fight against Saurs for sure. A couple spears on the flanks. A lot of Poison Warhounds, and it looks like Sons of Goros, the Great Weapon Centaurs here, and it looks like he has Great Weapons here as well. So these guys can do okay against diners. They can go to the diner and get some of that sweet coffee. No, but the Centaurs with Great Weapons can do some okay work. However, it's a little bit tricky because they have to get that nice surround, and most dino players are going to have Temple Guard and Saurus and other buffering units, so it's touchy, but it can do some work. So he's got Centaurs with Great Weapons as well to go after the big dinos. Kazrak on a chariot with his whip, so it looks like he's going to be trying to whip that Dread Saurian. And last but not least, a Bray Shaman with Shadows. So let's get the show on the road, guys, and see how it goes. So the Dread Saurian's going to be coming in the front with a nice juicy charge, going to be feasting on some of these guys, and he should be able to make some okay contact here. And you can see the initial damage isn't bad, taking out about 5 models, but he turns and attacks the Blackhorns Ravagers, and Kazrak's actually going after the Dread Saurian, which is a pretty bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see how it works out for him, but I actually didn't notice Kazrak. He was kind of like mixed in here, and I was going after some other targets with my micro, mainly trying to kind of position away from these Centaurs here. So at this point, we're going to be pulling back with the Dread Saurian. He'll be running back this way. We did also dive in with the Ripperdactyls, which may have been a bit of a mistake. Now, in the meantime, my opponent is going to be collapsing in the back with the Sons of Goros, basically just trying to break the edges of my formation. It kind of looks like a freebie over here, right? These Saurus and these Skinks are kind of being attacked from two sides, so getting a rear charge here, breaking them quickly, could be nice to kind of free up pressure on my other targets. So in the meantime, though, like I said, we're using the Pterodon Riders to just kind of shoot and poke at the Centaurs. It's not going to kill them quickly, but over the course of a long battle, it certainly can do some work. Shield of the Old Ones is going to be going down as well. I knew I was taking some Centaur Throwing Axe fire, so I wanted to get that ward save. And at this point, like I said, we will be pulling back, and the Saurus Scar Veteran here is able to pretty much free up this formation. So the Sons of Goros being pushed back, the Saurus, like I said, a really good anchor piece, and it looks like a miscast pendulum right there. I think he was trying to go like right across here, but he did miss that, unfortunately. But it happens to the best of us. So right here, you can see my Pterodon Rider still poking away at the throwing axes. And it's really important when you're playing against throwing axes, just buffer them while you kill everything else. Because if they're able to actually sit and focus down your big dinos, they'll go down very, very quickly. So right here, we're going to be dropping a fat job of banishment. So the Toad here, the Slan Mage of Life, going to be dropping a banishment, which gets a pretty good rotation. It goes through the Gore Herds, it goes through the Hounds, and it goes right through into the Ungor Spears and takes out a couple models as well. So right here, really nice throwing axe volley from my opponent. Pretty much just tears apart one group of the Pterodon Riders. I don't think I actually lose any models outright, but I leave them sitting for a little bit too long, and they're certainly going to be taking some damage. So right after I do some burst damage to an area is the best time to pull in the Dread Saurian, just pure carnage as he tears through this formation. And I feel like the Dread Saurian's damage output is a lot better. I mean, he's up to 76 kills right now. Being buffed up by regrowth is definitely pretty good. And yeah, it makes it really, really tough to bring down. So the Dread Saurian and the Feral Carno are going to be sweeping this side of the formation. And we have a blob fight in the middle. Not too concerned though. I mean, Kazrak can do some work. He's pretty good against Saurus on his chariot. He has good AP values, has his bonus for infantry. He's up to 36 kills now, but he's not like a huge threatening presence. I still think that Kazrak is a pretty weak lord in general, but I mean, I guess as far as chariot lords go, it's not bad. It's kind of like a Marauder Chieftain on a chariot or something. So throwing axes here, going to be going after the Saurus Scar veteran. So every time my big dinos do get focused by the throwing axes, I'm just kind of making an effort to kind of pull them back, kind of reorient my Pterodon riders, get whatever buffering units I have, Saurus or Skinks, and try and screen them out. But my opponent has done a good job getting rid of my screens over here. So I have a couple, Skinks here who can potentially chase, but I don't really have anything I can like screen them out with. So now some really good focus fires going into my Toad here. So you can see the Slann Mage of Life is taking some axes to the face. So I detached these Skink cohorts who I had fighting over here, and now they're going to be chasing after the Centaurs, trying to peel those guys while the Toad basically just eats these blasts to the face. But it's not a bad situation because here the Dreadsaurian is basically just chasing Kazrak. You can see the Saurus Scar veteran as well going after Kazrak One-Eye, and the Scar vet could probably 2v1 these guys, so I'm not too concerned about that. But we are going to be bringing the Dreadsaurian over here to try and help out, and it looks like he's taking the engagement a little bit, but here comes the Dreadsaurian going in for that Bray Shaman, but the Bray Shaman and his Hog are barely just able to get out there as the Scar veteran does look to get the last attack and push him back. So Sons of Goros going to be sweeping in as well. A heroic effort by these Beastmen troops, but they're probably not going to last terribly long in this situation against a Dreadsaurian plus a Scar vet. It's going to be a pretty bad time. Now for the rest of what I have left, I do have some Ripperdactyls who are back online, up to 61 kills. We didn't get to see them in action too much, but they certainly did some really good damage. So right here, this is like the perfect situation. There's a ton of like lightly armored Beastmen troops, so for example, I could pull them in the back, but it looks like terror routes are already going down. So on that note, I basically just decided to use the Ripperdactyls to go after the Bray Shaman. Granted, that would have been a really good place to rear charge. It probably would have instantly broke all of these Beastmen troops, but I think getting rid of the caster probably is a better idea. So here it looks like some Warhounds and some Centaurs with Great Weapons are coming after my Toad, who's taken a bit of damage, but the regrowth and other healing effects have kept him up pretty well. So here you can see the Beastmen forces are going to be colliding, going in for the Slann Mage, and yeah, the Skinks should hold for a moment, but I definitely need to get the Saurus Scar veteran and some other supporting elements over there to make sure that the Toad doesn't get feasted on by these Great Weapons. So the Dreadsaurian's up to 207 kills. It seems like its ability to just do damage and not get stuck on things is a lot better now, so I'm quite happy with the changes they've made. It's one of the first games I've played in quite some time since they changed the Dreadsaurian. He gave it some buffs, and yeah, quite impressed with it. So the Scar veteran's going to be going in right here, going after Kazrak, who on his chariot is a large target, so I should be able to peel this guy off. But the Centaurs are throwing axes. My opponent's done a pretty good job. Despite my pursuits and screening and things like that, he has gotten some good engagements here, and it looks like he's going to be coming in for a big old Alpha Strike, just trying to charge in there. Probably staying back and using the throwing axes would be better, because at that point, yeah, he's just going to get smacked with army losses. But yeah, the Dreadsaurian went crazy that game. Like, it did an outstanding job of just killing masses of infantry, and you can see the Dreadsaurian, I didn't put any chevrons on it, if memory serves. So that Dreadsaurian was able to earn 2 chevrons and 236 kills. Really didn't do bad. The Ripperdactyls I liked as well. They're good because oftentimes Beastmen have a ton of like cheap swarming infantry, and Ripperdactyls can rip apart. Oh, that was terrible. I'm sorry. They can rip apart an infantry unit like in a matter of seconds. Like, it's really, really fast. Their damage output's quite insane. They have like 135, I think, with a bonus for infantry, 50 plus melee attack. It's good. They're glass cannons, but if you're going against like low tier infantry units, they're great at kind of clearing through the masses and making sure you don't get swarmed. I still like the Pterodon Riders a lot. I like them against the Centaurs with throwing axes. I think they bring some good utility. And against like Minotaur picks, for example, you can just sit them above the Minotaurs, get pretty steady missile pressure. It's not going to like annihilate them, but it makes sure that as the game progresses, you're getting some value, which I think is quite good. The rock drop's also not bad against like hordes of infantry and gore herds and all that stuff. And yeah, honestly, I felt like it was a pretty good build. There's a couple things, I don't know, the Ripperdactyls are the one thing I'm not 100% sold on, but I felt like they did pretty good, and I didn't even play the best with them. I had some relatively sloppy play, but these guys I think could be good. Maybe getting the Colossadon Hunters would be better, just in case, because a lot of times Beastmen players will come in with Razordon hunting packs, as well as Minotaurs like Butchers of Kalkengard, and the Pterodon Hunters, or the Colossadon Hunters, with the bonus for large, would certainly be much more effective in that situation. So maybe that's going to be worth it. Like, you could cut one Saurus, replace it with like a red-crested skink or something in the middle, and then upgrade to the Colossadon Hunters. And that's going to give you a pretty well-rounded kit of like killing infantry with the Dreadsaurian and the Slann and your Saurus, and then dealing with large threats with the Colossadon Hunters plus the Saurus Scar veteran. And for my opponent's army, it was definitely fun. I think that the chariots could be good against, like, they're good against my Saurus, but it's like hard because a lot of times Lizardmen players are going to have like a Feral Carnosaurs or a Saurus Scar vet or things that can really just beat up chariots. They have like plenty of high mass things to counter them, so I don't think chariots are the way to go here for sure. But yeah, I don't know. There's elements. I like the throwing axes are really solid. I'm actually not a huge fan of using Centaurs with great weapons because I find that even if they do surround like a Stegodon or, you know, a Skink Chief on one of those big dinos, like, it's not going to, they're still not going to have a great time. And their damage output's okay, but just how squishy they are, they die to the Howdas really quick. They take damage from too many sources, so I don't think that's going to be one of the more efficient ways. But yeah, as far as the build goes, I think it had some strong elements. I think Gore Herds are fine, Centaurs are fine. I like the Hounds to chase down Skinks and other things like that. maybe getting like one great weapon perhaps. But yeah, I think Kazrak and the Shadowcaster is good. Enfeebling Foe, Pendulum's really good against Temple Guard spam, because you have to respect that. A lot of Lizard players actually do spam Temple Guard in this matchup too. So that's another variable you have to consider, and having the Brace Shaman with Shadows. And plus the 2 Chariots would be okay against Temple Guard if they're engaged against other things. So I see where the build was going for sure. It had some teeth, but against what I brought, it certainly didn't have the tools to deal with the large threats. And you could see that the Dread Soaring and company were very strong in the late game. So well played to my opponent, Armored Platypus. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. And now, guys, we're going to take a look at a breakdown and go over a build. Yes, I have a lot of fun replays coming up for you guys as well. So custom battles, Beastmen. So, for the Beastmen, I think that Morker is probably going to be one of the better choices, although honestly going with Malagor isn't a bad idea either. Being able to summon Cygors isn't bad against like Temple Guard spam and other things like that, but yeah, I think Morker's just so solid, and getting the spawn is quite useful. It gives you like mass in the front line. I wouldn't be opposed to mixing in a Gorbel here as well, and Gorbel, and then I think either a Beastcaster, Deathcaster. Death is good because you can Spirit Leech down the big single entities, and you can Buna down like Temple Guard and Star Chamber Guardians. I don't think the Manticore summons are that good. Lizards are really durable. The Shadowcaster is really solid. I mean, you can go with either, I would say either Shadows or Death. So in this case, the spells you want to bring is going to be, you're going to want to bring Pendulum, you're going to want to bring Enfeebling Foe plus Melkos. Melkos good for slowing and doing steady damage for cheap cost. Enfeebling Foe, again, for the big monster fights when Gorbel's going after targets, and then you want the Penumbral Pendulum. From here, I'd get 2 Bestigors. They're really, really good against Temple Guard, and they can smash down Saurus pretty effectively. I wouldn't go like too heavy on them, but probably something along those lines, and then from here, I'd probably get like a bunch of Ungor Spears, just like chaff, just to kind of fill out your front line. So now, as far as anti-large, I'm a huge fan of Centaurs with Throwing Axes. I think if positioned correctly, those guys can do a ton of work. Razordon hunting packs or Razorgore herds are really good against big targets. They last relatively long. They're fast. They have good AP values. They're steady. They do the trick. So from here, we probably need to fine-tune a little bit because I'm a little bit strapped for cash. Probably go down to 2 of those. I do like the Butchers of Kalkengard. Those guys have good AP. They're steady. They can pin down and fight big monsters pretty effectively. I would like to get some Raiders. Granted, the Centaurs with Throwing Axes can usually deal with Pterodons, but having a couple of Harpies isn't a bad idea either. Because Harpies can chase down like flying units and also aren't bad against Skinks and things like that. So here, we can't really cut corners anywhere else. We could get rid of like Call of Violence. Leadership buff isn't bad either. We have our front line. It's not the best, but you don't need that much. And the Razorgore herds are going to give you some more AP to rear charge into, let's say, like Temple Guard in the back and things like that. And then from here, I would like 1 Harpy unit. I don't think you really need Hounds too much. I think Razorgore herds should be fine. The Butchers of Kalkengard are just so good. They're shielded. They're extremely powerful against like most things. Their stats are just good, and their regeneration is quite solid indeed. Yeah, I would really like to get a Harpy in here somehow. We could just cut the Ungor Spearman herds. Yeah, why do we have the shields? That's what I was. Okay, that's where the money was lost. Okay, so we go for that, and then we go for here. I think something like this could be quite good. Arguably, though, 1 Harpy might not be enough, but basically the Bestigors will do good against Saurus. These guys just take a beating. That's all they're there for. Centaurs with Throwing Axes can focus down big targets. Razorgore herds plus the Butchers give you extra punch, and the Gorbel, of course, is pretty good at hunting certain dinos and things like that. So just give it a try. Let me know what you guys think. I think it's an okay Beastman build. You could, like, again, if you go with Malagor too to get like Vile Tide and the Vigor reduction, it would open up more options because he's so cheap. You could get more stuff, but yeah, I think either Malagor or Morker are going to be very strong here. So again, well played to my opponent, the Armored Platypus. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this game, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Take care.